What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back doing another selection reaction video for round 5 of the Six Nations 2024 final round. Super Saturday just around the corner. We've already done one up on the channel for Wales versus Italy. You can go check that one out after this one if you haven't already, though. This one, what a game I'm looking forward to this weekend. Going into this tournament 6-7 weeks ago, whenever we started out, honestly, thought this was going to be a walkover game for France. Thought it was going to build out to be that way. The last game I remember for these was last year's Six Nations, and France won that like 53-10 in Twickenham. You know, that was a massive thing, and that's, you know, the same England team that went on to be third in a World Cup, right? I thought going into this year, France were going to look to just sort of dominate most of these games, and that Ireland one was going to be the questionable one. England last week, win against Ireland. Didn't see that coming. Out of all the games that weekend, that was the one I was like, you know what, I still feel confident Ireland will be able to take that one. England came out with their best performance of the tournament. Some of their standout players I dropped from my fantasy team. Just the wrong time. So England are going to go in feeling pretty confident for this one too. France got the win against Wales in the Principality. Bit of a hard-fought battle for a big chunk of that game, but eventually the scoreline looking a little bit comfortable. So we're going to take a look through the team announcement that has come out, give my initial reaction, go over some good picks and bad picks, any changes I might have made along the way, go over some thoughts on how we think this game might go, and then finally, of course, giving a score prediction, which is getting tougher and tougher, which is one of the reasons I absolutely love the Six Nations. It's so hard to predict how these games are going to go. If you enjoy this one, remember to leave it a like, and of course hit the subscribe button, because there's so much rugby content on this channel. If you like your rugby, why would you want to be anywhere else? So jumping into this game then, we'll start out by talking about the home team. France beat Wales last week. I sort of predicted that one to come. I was pretty confident in that Wales bench wasn't going to be strong enough to be able to go against the French bench. They are missing a couple of key players around the park. They had some big players come back in last week. But of course, first game of the tournament can be a little bit rusty to get back into. But the French bench, that rhymes, came on and made a really, really big impact. And I'd be expecting them to be following suit this weekend. And I think the coaches are expecting the same too, because we have the team announcement, and as far as I'm aware, I don't think there is a single change from the team we got to see last week against Wales. So it's going to be very quick to run through, and we can just sort of go over our opinions on the players in total, I guess. So starting out in that front row, Cyril Robay, Julien Marchand, and Antonio starting out in that front row. Thibaut Flamand and Mayfu in the lock department. Francois Cross goes in alongside of Charles Yvon and Gregory Aldrit in that back row. Now, the forward pack last week for France looked dominant to me. Now, outside of the channel, I try and be really unbiased on the channel side of things. Outside of the channel, I'm a Wales supporter. I was watching that game last week. I really thought France looked dominant in the forward pack in terms of the scrum, and I think France might feel a bit hard done by the fact that they looked dominant in so many scrums, and the referee just said, use it and get on with it, even though I feel like they could have generated quite a few penalties off the back of that scrum. It'll be interesting to see how that rule will be spread across World Rugby. I would like to see it implemented a bit more, because I get a little bit bored personally of just teams running over a scrum and just winning a penalty and taking 3 and sort of winning a game that way. I kind of want to see that implemented more. But going into this game, the England forward pack is also, a big scrummaging team. They're a big unit pack coming in. They added a bit of weight into their team as well this last week with George Martin coming back in as well. I think the scrummaging is going to be brutal, and I personally can't wait for it going as a neutral for this game. In the halfback partnership, then, Legarec goes in alongside of Thomas Ramos once again. Now, Legarec got man of the match in that game. I thought he had a superb game. Lovely out-the-back pass is a very hard skill to be able to land. Got into a few people's team of the week, so I saw a lot of people on the team of the week, even though the stats actually sort of favoured Thomas Williams. Legarec absolutely, running the show. Thought he had a big impact. I feel kind of unfortunately for Maxime Lucu, I think Legarec had a better game against Wales than Lucu has had throughout the tournament. So not only, he's probably been waiting all that time for Dupont to go away, go and play sevens, and now I'm thinking Legarec, give him the start is the right way to go. Thomas Ramos in at fly half didn't look comfortable to me, and I'm kind of surprised by it, because he has played 10, he has experience playing 10. Couple of key decision-making times I didn't think were working brilliantly. His kicking game a little bit off around the park, towards post, fine. It's Thomas Ramos, who expects a good kicking game towards the post. Around the park, looking a little bit empty. You can notice that Rowan Ntamack and Jalibert are missing from that 10 shirt. I like him as a fullback. He looked a little bit off as a fly half. Now, I believe Roman Ntamack is technically back this week. Off of his long-standing injury, but obviously wasn't going to get into the French team. I think he's sort of back available for selection this week and will, maybe be at club in the next couple of weeks, but he was going to miss this tournament. But, that's something to look forward to, I think, for this French team to have someone like Roman Ntamack back into this team, when it comes around to future tournaments and something. Because that 10 shirt, maybe not quite suiting Ramos as much as I thought. In the centre department then, Deporter coming in last week. Busy. The youngsters in this French team look great, and it's so nice to see high energy plays. Are they getting everything right? No. There was a couple of times that Deporter absolutely picked the wrong option. It just ran the wrong way. He's excited, making a start for France. He's a young lad. You expect him to grow into that position. He's playing alongside someone like Gaël Ficou, highly experienced, very knowledgeable player. He's going to look a little bit more rash than that. But some of the link-ups and some of these lads playing together, in the under-20s and so on, him linking up with Bielbiarri last week, and Le Garec as well. There's the opportunity for these lads to have a lot of experience of time together already, even though they're on low caps in terms of, men's unions, international sides. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing him back in this 12 shirt. Very different player to Jonathan Darnty. It'll be interesting to see how he goes up, because the centre partnership for England worked better last week against Ireland, but across the tournament has been, I think, a bit of a weak link for them. So maybe, he'll be one to keep an eye out for this week. And then, like I mentioned, alongside Gaël Ficou. And then in the back three, Louis Bielbiarri goes back in alongside of Damien Penaud and Leo Barre, which I'm going to hopefully get that pronunciation. I was trying to remember the pronunciation from last week going in at 15. Bielbiarri's everywhere, man. Again, youngsters coming into this French team, just, I think, landing that shirt. I think he has that 11 shirt locked down up there. Damien Penaud played well. Not maybe, as try scoring as we'd be expecting from him last week, but just his general work around the park was really good last week against Wales. Barre going in that 15 shirt, had a couple of mistakes, had a couple of issues again. Young, inexperienced, low caps. You've got to expect it. You've got to expect it to not be, bang on. I did question whether Jaminet might get a look into this team with Ramos at 10 and whether Jaminet coming. I believe he's fit and available for selection and everything else. Let me know in the comments if he's not, and I've got that completely wrong. But I thought maybe that could be an option to come in. England's a big game. You're playing in France at home. They have that sort of advantage as opposed to playing in Twickenham this year. But maybe someone like Jaminet just to hold down that fullback position a little bit better around the defensive side, might be someone to look at. In terms of the replacements then, Marvaca goes back in alongside of Taufai Fanua, and this boy, Colombe, comes in. Oh, what a unit. What an absolute unit. Brand new for me, coming in that last week to see him going against that Wales side. Ended up as the best scoring prop of the round in the fantasy. For anyone keeping track of the fantasy. Came on, scored his try. Bit of a monster, really hard guy to stop. Again, punishing that Wales scrum. Going to be tough going up against, an England scrum. I would absolutely believe England scrummaging is going to be better than the Wales scrum. So they're going to be tested a bit more this week than they were last week in terms of that scrum time. But looking forward to seeing him come back on from the bench and hopefully make that same sort of impact. And then going in alongside them in the forwards then, Romain Taufai Fanua, Romat and Bourron coming in there as well. And then Taufai Fanua got his try last week, charge down. That is something that England will want to take a look at. It's something Wales don't do brilliantly. That sort of exit box kick, they have issues with it. England look a little bit more steady. England are a little bit more, they do the caterpillar setup, and they'll go 3 men deep and they'll allow the box kick out. So I would like to believe that's probably going to be a better area for England to be able to deal with. But, can't switch off, because someone like Romain Taufai Fanua will absolutely get over and get that charge down on the kick. So in terms of the team, nothing to talk about in terms of changes. What do we expect from this game from the France team? I'm expecting the set piece to be a really crucial part of this game, because I think both of these teams are coming in quite evenly matched in that respect. When I think of the scrummaging, I've got to imagine that France have the weight in the scrum and probably have that power, but England have very experienced scrummagers to be able to hold out. That front row for France is also looking very good. That's going to be a really interesting area to see how they hold on to that one. Maybe the referees will feel more pressure playing in front, that if the French scrum's looking dominant, more penalties might come. But like I said, I think England are going to be a harder scrummaging team than Wales were last week. And then the lineouts as well. Lineouts is an area where I thought France were going to punish Wales. Looking at the positions that they have in the lineouts, and Wales' lineout hasn't looked strong, and they didn't really land that at all. Whereas England lineouts, George Martin in there, we've got a Toje in there. Being able to take that area is going to be a big blow to France if England begin to dominate that area. So I'd be expecting to see France's lineout position get a little bit better for this week. But those backs, man, this attacking back five for France is looking really, or maybe even seven if you include, Ramos and Lagana going in there. I think that's a really nice set of backs. Hopefully, we're going to see some open running play rugby, but the 6-2 on the bench maybe says otherwise to me, but we'll see how that gets on. Moving on then to talk about the England team who got the win over Ireland last week. 9% of people on Super Brew thought that Ireland were going to lose that game. 91% thought Ireland would win. Everyone expected Ireland to go on. I thought Ireland were on for the Grand Slam. England turned up with their best performance. I'm trying to even think, actually. I think it might be England's best performance maybe in a year. In all honesty, the World Cup for England didn't blow me away, even though they were winning games. The actual performance put in never really blew me away. Yes, they got like 60 points on Chile, but you'd expect them to, right? Against a top tier international team. I think that's probably the best game I've seen from England. Real determination, real drive. I saw the interview with Ben Earl, at the end of the game, and he was sort of saying, everyone's written us off, and we're gonna, make an improvement. We're here to sort of prove that we're not the worst England team ever. Who I don't know who said that because I haven't seen that anywhere, but he's taken it personally. So they're coming back, they're making a big stamp, and it's so nice to be seeing a really solid performance. Now they've had their own blows in terms of personnel, unfortunately, this week. So we'll get into the team. So in the front row, Ellis Genge, Jimmy George, and Dan Cole, the same front row that we got to see last week versus Ireland, and held up pretty well in terms of the scrimmaging. Now, Ellis Genge, I've seen a couple of videos floating around about the Ellis Genge charge on Tyke Furlong, which I saw in game, and I thought he could be in trouble if they go back and look at that one. They didn't go back and look at it. I assume the TMO did it behind the scenes. I've seen a couple of different media sources saying, like, should that not have been a red card? I'll leave that up to other people's decisions. I think that potentially could have looked at a red card and how that game would have changed. But generally, bar that one occasion, I think this front row held out really well. I think they've gone for some big scrimmages there. Did wonder whether Joe Marler would get a bit of a look in for the start here, just to have Joe Marler and Dan Cole and have a really solid sort of scrummaging setup, experienced heads going on. But it's not the worst thing in the world to have Joe Marler on the bench, given how impactful the French bench was against Wales in terms of that scrimmaging time. In the lock department, no changes here either. Maro Itoje going back in alongside George Martin. In my own personal team of the week, George Martin got my number 5 shirt. I thought he brought real physicality, everything we expected from him in that game. I think he absolutely brought, and I think it was a real nightmare for Ireland to deal with. He got my number 5 shirt. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And then in that back row, Ollie Chesham, Sam Underhill, and Ben Earl. So no changes in the front rate to last week, and why bother? If you've got that working against Ireland, who went on to beat France themselves, chuck it in against France and hope they can put in another similar performance. In the halfback partnership, Alex Mitchell going in alongside George Ford. Oh boy, George Ford. What was going on with that boy's kicking game last week? Really off pace for him. Did wonder whether Marcus Smith would start this week. He is on the bench. I saw a couple of people put Marcus Smith in their team of the week. He got a drop goal. He had a good 10 minutes in the game. I'm astonished he got into so many people's teams of the week. But I think he deserves the start there. George Ford, not great for me last week. Maybe okay in terms of running around the park, but you can't afford to be missing the points. For those of you paying attention to the discipline last week in France-Wales, it was wild. We got to like 60 minutes with 7 penalties collectively. Discipline was really high. There may not be the opportunity to take as many threes as England have come across in other teams, in other games. So when you do get them, you have to slot them. Ramos is probably going to slot them. So George Ford missing that many kicks last week. You'd hope he's been working on that. Maybe you want Marcus Smith. If the 3 points aren't going to be an opportunity, you want a more attacking fly half. I might have liked to have seen Marcus Smith starting this week. Centre partnership, Henry Slade goes back in alongside Ollie Lawrence. It worked better for me last week than it has done in previous week. I think Ollie Lawrence is maybe the best 12 that England could throw in there alongside Henry Slade. They like to have Henry Slade as the playmaker, even though I do think he's been a bit quiet generally throughout the tournament. He's doing a lot of hard work in the behind the scenes organising players. So I think Ollie Lawrence is a good pick at 12. Manu Tuilagi is back. He is on the bench, and I did think maybe he would just get a leapfrog back, and it's Manu Tuilagi, right? But he's on the bench, impact player from the bench, hopefully be working out for them. And then in that back 3, Elliot Daly comes in on the left wing, Tommy Freeman on the right wing, and George Furbank in at 15. Now, Feyu Oboso has had a self-reported concussion at the end of the last game, and he looked fine to me in the game. I don't remember him going off in the game, to be honest, but he had a self-reported concussion. It's been said he's ruled out for this game. I thought he had a great game last week. Elliot Daly comes back in. on that wing, who I don't think has been everywhere really in terms of being on that wing. I kind of like him coming on from the bench for his versatility you can offer there. But George Furbank had a really good game. Now, George Furbank was one of the players that I thought was maybe a bit of a misstep by Borthwick. He stopped putting on Freddie Stewart, and he seemed like just the first shirt you locked down in that England team. George Furbank coming in, he's getting a couple of things wrong. I don't necessarily know if he's the best positional fullback. I think Freddie Stewart maybe wins better positioning and better in the air, but sheer counter-attacking that George Furbank offers is a totally different element to sort of Freddie Stewart. And I kind of like his pace. He was a very aggressive player, got over for his try last week as well. And I'm beginning to come around to it. It's almost like international coaches know more about rugby than me, right? And I'm crazy. Who would have guessed? So, maybe that's going to work out for them. I still think Freddie Stewart's a really good player. I'm not sure if he would be comfortable playing on the wing. Don't know if he's ever played on the wing. Maybe you could have put Freddie Stewart in alongside of Tommy Freeman, because we know how good Bielbiori and Damien Penaud are in the air. Could have maybe looked to put Freddie Stewart out on the wing, maybe a bit out of position, but could have competed in that air, removes the opportunity for as many crossfield kicks from France coming in. Maybe something to think about there. Bit of an outsider sort of expectation there. And then in terms of their replacements, Theo Dan, Joe Marler, and Will Stewart's coming on from the bench. Theo Dan was looking lively last week, and it's good to see. Unfortunately, still not going to get a great deal of game time, but it was nice to see him try and have a real impact off the bench last week. Had some actual sort of 10-15 minutes of game time to try and make a bit of an impact. Alongside them then, Ethan Roots and Alex Dombrandt coming on in that second half at some point, alongside of Danny Kerr, Marcus Smith, and Manu Tuilagi as the replacement backs. Now, what am I expecting from this England team? Like I said, the set-piece area is going to be a really interesting battle. I'm going to keep a very close eye on it. I would like to see these backs get more into the game. We got to see how dangerous they can be on the wing. I think Tommy Freeman was running hard last week. Ollie Lawrence was carrying well. George Furbank got over for a try. I would like to see those backs implemented a bit more. I still think it's something that England have got a little bit missing out of their overall game plan, because they go through the forward so much, and George Ford for the kicking opportunities and stuff. That's why I kind of lean more to the idea of liking having someone like Marcus Smith, because I think if you put Marcus Smith in at 10, it would open the door to all of those backs suddenly being much more threatening. Going up against France, they do have maybe a bit of an arguable weak link with Deporter in that 12 compared to someone like Jonathan Darty, who's probably going to make the tackle and get a jackal if you're not all over that. So maybe those backs will look to target that area. Breakdown's also going to be one. England did very well against Ireland, who I absolutely put up there as one of the best teams in the world for being able to compete to that breakdown. England really supported their own breakdown. They were trying to avoid as many turnovers as they could. We got to see the pick and goes. We got to see the forwards carrying well. Bernal got over for his try. Joe Marler, for anyone who saw it, a bit annoyed that he wasn't able to get a try when it going out for the Marcus Smith drop goal. Absolutely thought he could have walked in a try as well. So I would like to see a bit more expansive game from this. I would like to see those backs really utilised, and also being able to be supported at that breakdown as well as we got to see against Ireland last week. And what a game. What a game. I can't wait for this one. Genuinely, this is going to be a really exciting game. What do we think in terms of a score prediction? I don't know. I was so confident last week in saying Ireland, and England came to play. Now, they're not at Twickenham this week. They haven't got the crowd behind them. It's not too much of a journey over. I'm sure they'll probably have a good England fan base at the French stadium as well. Oh, man. What do we think? I think England need to be consistent. They need to be able to put in that exact same performance against France, and I think they've got a good shout. I do think penalties are going to be harder to come by in this game for England. They can't afford to rely on the threes, therefore they need to be looking for those tries. France, it still looked impressive to me. They had a bit of a hard-fought game against Wales, but they're able to just hold that momentum shift. Going to the Principality is still a difficult place to come away with a win. And they were able to hold out that pressure and then, mount it later on with that bench. I'm still going to lean towards France, but I wouldn't be surprised if you guys are going to both go either way on this one. I'm going to say France to win. I'm going to go low. I'm not saying 53-10 like we got to have last year. I'm going to say France to win this one. I'm going to say by 6. I'm going to go for 2 penalties, Ramos. That's what going to be my prediction, guys. But drop it down in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win? What do you think the score difference is going to be? Make sure you're getting all your picks on Super Brew as well, so that we can go over them in Monday's video. We've still got Ireland versus Scotland to go, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you are the first to know when that video is out too. Looking forward to Super Saturday, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.